House on wheels. I don't know how to serve that. Yeah. Like, how do you drive it?
Driving your house around it.
How big is it?
Yeah.
I saw the video.
Right, exactly. I'm just letting you know. Yeah, you can't go where you want to go. And you just have to break your back.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is don't like that. You have no contact with your camera there, so that you have to put the camera on and off all the time.
Yes. Yeah, I have to.
Yeah.
But then,
That was really nice.
I even and that was yeah.
Yeah.
I did. And then that would be up here. Yeah, so I was thinking about that.
Good, yeah, sorry.
Doing it. So I'm doing it.
All right.
Yeah.
So we go on Monday. I got a flight. I'm tired right now. I'm tired. She got this time difference between there and the trend and that I got my negative yoga test, so I'm here.
Oh, yeah, while we were fighting, Yeah, well, hopefully it won't be too long. The problem last time was if they emphasized one of these, we'll see how it works out. Yeah, I'll try that.
Okay, we ready to go this morning? Got all our clocks on the right time? Okay. Let's see, I'm trying to think which order here. Ben and Melanie been at the hospital all night. And Norman went there with lots of pain, and it's a cracked vertebrae, lumbar area here. And so they kept testing, and it's been there for a couple months, I guess, with big pain. And, he doesn't like taking a painkiller, but this here, he called them, and so it was serious. So they just got out of there at 8. So, and Norman and Libby are home, and Libby's there with him alone. So I think, and all they're taking is Tylenol for medication. But yeah, we got the note on Fran. We got a call from her husband, and it was in the morning that the day they called us. So, but it appeared to be a real positive thing. And several people were involved in it here that had worked with them before her passing. Okay, let's see, Lisa, you've got Lane somewhere.
He's in Louisiana.
He's in Louisiana at this.
Well, he's staying at his mom and dad's house because he can't go to the hospital and see his mom. They're only allowing his dad in to see her for 30 minutes 3 times a day.
Just a little bit. Good to see you, Ben. We just heard the story, so thanks for being there. Anything else? We got to visit the new baby on the North Fork. I don't know how they're being received with the virus stuff, but just be cautious there for the new child. Anything else? Let us pray. Lord, we ask for your guidance. We ask for your overseeing in our lives. We're thankful for answering our prayers. We're thankful for that the medical things that we're dealing with are helpful, and that doctors make wise decisions. Lord, we also pray for everyone's spiritual beings, in that we acknowledge you as the controller of the world, and we submit to that. Help us as we're studying your word that we can understand it. We're thankful that we have Jesus to answer our prayers and to be involved in our lives. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, we're on 2 Samuel 15. Verse chapter 15, 2 Samuel. Now we got the same characters doing some of the new, same old tricks. One of the things that's interesting is I've always wondered. We do this over and over. Read about David. We read about Saul, and then we read about Absalom, and a lot of discussion in commentaries, and when you even read Bible verses concerning Absalom and what kind of character he was and would. So we're going to be going over his revolt of the control of the area where they're at. Now, somebody give us a quick review. Let's look at it physically. What kind of story do we get out of this particular chapter on Absalom's character?
Absalom's pretty entitled. He's very arrogant. He's not He sees he's like I don't want to say this effectively really bad, but I think he sees a lot of David's faults. And maybe he just does to justify his own sin.
Think he tried out for Mr. America?
Maybe, I don't know. He's a good looking guy. Yeah,
Good looking guy.
He's a picture of America today.
Yeah. Arrogant, control everything.
Entitled.
Oh, yeah. And so then we've got King David is involved there. So, and then what's real interesting about this as we read through it is how God is involved here. We see the style of God's teaching at this stage of his relationship with people. This is all his people are mixed in this whole thing. And so then we read the story in the New Testament of Jesus opposite of this. We've got an arrogant guy, we've got a humble, got a kind. I mean, the list just almost opposite, but these were God's people and they worked with them. And so we're going to see some movement of people in, as we read it, we'll see some movement back and forth into Jerusalem. Then I'm amazed the similarities of the politics of this to the politics of today. There's similarities happening here, and you go, why is that? Well, people. We're going to see one right off the bat here, reflection of Absalom. So, and we've got some other people who were heavily involved here. They were advisors. Go for advice. It was interesting talking about advice. I got a call from Norman. He said, is your brother around? I said, yeah. What do you need? He's over at the other house. I said, well, he's working or something. He said, well, call me. I want his advice on whether I should take my eye out or not. And I said, well, he'd be the guy to talk to. He has one eye and he goes for maintenance. And he said, well, that's what I want to call to see what kind of maintenance is involved in it. So we have advisors here. Norman was asking my brother. I think my brother said, well, they didn't know whether to put an eye in, and then you've got a whole bunch of things you got to do with that eye. So it was, Juan told him, but I don't think Norman made a decision yet. My brother, I think, said something like he'd go for the patch like our local real estate guy, because there's no maintenance, he said. The other one, you got to go to Anchorage, have this guy take it out and paint it and clean it up and attach things, and it'll fall out if you get someplace wild, and, stuff. So we have all kinds of things happening. So here we have advisors. So you're going to see Absalom or David going to get an advisor. And that advisor, then they switch sides. I'll be your advisor, and then he switches to the other side. It'd be like a Democrat and a Republican switching sides with advisors. And what's the latest one in the Juneau now? Wasn't it a lady walked in refused to wear a mask? One of the legislatures. So it's all going back. I have no idea where it'll end, but interesting. So let's read the first 7 verses of this. And we get to watch Absalom's technique in dealing with people. And he is slick. So, all right, 1 through 6. Daddy, you want to read that? Chapter 15, 2 Samuel.
After this, Absalom got himself a chariot and horses and 50 men to run before him. And Absalom used to rise early and stand beside the way of the gate. And when any man had a dispute to come before the king for judgment, Absalom would call to him and say, "From what city are you?" And when he said, "Your servant is of such and such tribe in Israel," Absalom would say to him, "See, your claims are good and right, but there is no man designated by the king to hear you." Then Absalom would say, "Oh, that I were a judge in the land, that every man with a dispute or cause might come to me, and I would give him justice." And whenever a man came near to pay homage to him, he would put out his hand and take hold of him and kiss him. Thus as Absalom did to all of Israel who came to the king for judgment. So Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel.
So he's here acting out by the gate. This was a common procedure that whoever was in charge stood by the gate. It would be like us. They would come to you, and you were the Supreme Court, basically. So he would listen to them, but he would answer so it made him look good. Or he also he had a different relationship. Before he ends up talking to the people, and he would say, "Well, we don't have a person here to actually give you the decision, but it sounds like that's a good claim." Now, this is when you go to court, there's the judge to make sure that whatever makes the decision. This one here, he would just say, "I'll rewrite it." Absalom would say to him, "Your claims are good and right, but no person listens to you on the part of the king." They didn't have the person to listen to. It sounded like he was missing, or maybe Absalom kept him back, or whoever knows. But he had to make this decision, and they had a general pattern they did. Then the king came for judgment, these people would. What does it mean he stole the hearts of the men of Israel?
Whenever you identify with a person, you listen to them and hear what they're saying, then that person's going to be, they're going to like you. And so if he's intercepting them before they got to David, then he is the guy to go to.
Yeah, I understand exactly how you feel, right?
Right.
How do I say this without getting in trouble? They say in marriage relationships that women just want them to listen to you, right? Right? What are you doing? You were going to fix it. No, just listen, right?
It's not about the nail.
Yeah. So this what he does. He stole the hearts from the men of Israel. And what are his techniques? He agrees with the person that comes in there. And he does it real slow so that he doesn't, somebody come and, say, "Oh, hold it, stop it." He does it one at a time. And so this goes on, these suits, and he keeps working on it. And gradually the number of people that are coming to his side, there's getting more and more. And he's keeping a low profile here. But he wants to get this thing all straightened out. Now this Absalom, most people remember this story. In a couple chapters you'll get it. But as a kid, I'll never forget. And I had a little children's Bible and had a picture of this story that you're going to read here in a couple weeks of Absalom. It's just vivid as vivid, just because of the craziness of it. And that has to do with him when Absalom gets his hair caught. And of course, when I was growing up, the 60s was a short hair, lots of people changing to long hair. Well, this one here in the chapter before, we're not talking long hair, we're talking massive hair, pounds of hair, right? And that must have been, so when the author or whoever did this book that I had, he had pictures of Absalom hanging from some oak tree with his hair caught in the tree, right? And he doesn't die from that, but he can't get down. So, yeah, he gets worked over, and I'll leave the rest to you. But this is Absalom. So he has all kinds of crazy things in this story that are interesting and make you remember it as a kid. First, they had him long hair, and then he's caught in a tree, which who knows was involved with that, right? But okay, so verse 6, in this manner Absalom dealt with all of Israel who came to the king for judgment. So Absalom stole away the hearts of men. Okay, and will you read 7 through 10 for us, please?
After 4 years, Absalom said to King David, please let me go to Hebron. I want to carry out my promise that I made to the Lord while I was living in Geshur in Aram. I said, if the Lord takes me back to Jerusalem, I will worship him in Hebron. The king said, go in peace. So Absalom went to Hebron, but he sent secret messengers to all the tribes of Israel. They told the people, when you hear the trumpets, say this, Absalom is the king of Hebron.
So Absalom is saying to the king, some versions in there it says how many years? This said 4, but most of them say 40, right? And it would appear that they got it from Josephus or something, a historical thing. Anyway, 40 years that he'd been involved in it. And so he wants to go there, play this vow, and of course, the king says, yeah. And he says something to him as he leaves, like he knows what's going to happen. What does he tell Absalom? Go in what? Go in peace. They're going to go do this vow, go back with it. But Absalom does something sneaky here. He's got okay to do what he's doing. But verse 10, Absalom sent spies throughout all the tribes of Israel. And it's going to make it, I guess this would be the part of all the political stuff. He said, sent spies there. As soon as you hear the sound of the trumpet, this is going to officially say, okay, we're under the other guy. As soon as you hear the sound of the trumpet, then you shall say, Absalom is the king of Hebron. Then 200 men went with Absalom from Jerusalem, were invited and went innocently. They didn't know anything was happening. When these guys would make a decision, they'd haul a bunch of, I don't know if they were warriors or what, but they went along usually just following the directions of the king or Absalom. So then the transition starts to happen. Absalom's goal is what?
Insurrection.
He wants to be the king, right? So he's sneaking people in there. We got spies in there. We're ready. Certain time here. They yell it out. And then 11 through 12. Lisa, you want to read that? This has to do with their advisor, counselor.
With Absalom, with 200 men from Jerusalem who were invited guests, and they went in their innocence and nothing. And while Absalom was offering sacrifices, he sent for Ahithophel the Gilonite, David's counselor from his city Shiloh, and his conspiracy grew strong, and the people with Absalom kept increasing.
So here comes the advisor. Now watch what happens. They use it and they'll add a few more advisors. And some of these are on one side of the fence and one's on the other. Tells where he's from, what he'd been doing. But Absalom continues to increase. This would be like, trying to think politically here in the peninsula. You can go through and see the voting of every city, like say on the Kenai Peninsula or Anchorage, and it would be like changing the vote, not the actual vote, but whether it was Republican, Independent, or whatever. This here, when they change it, so it happens very gradually here to where they're supporting the other guy, which is going to change the whole flavor. And this is pretty tough stuff usually, especially later you'll see them, great bit of anger, totally opposite of New Testament changes. Okay, Ben, you want to read 13 through 18?
And there came a messenger to David, saying, The hearts of the men of Israel are after Absalom. And David said unto all his servants that were with him in Jerusalem, Arise, and let us flee, for we shall not else escape from Absalom. Make speed to depart, lest he overtake us suddenly, and bring evil upon us, and smite the city with the edge of the sword. And the king's servants said unto the king, Behold, thy servants are ready to do whatsoever my lord the king shall appoint. And the king went forth, and all his household after him. And the king left 10 women, which were concubines, to keep the house. And the king went forth, and all the people after him, and tarried in a place that was far off. And all his servants passed on by him, and all the Cherethites, and all the Pelethites, and all the Gittites, 600 men, came after him from Gath, passed on before the king.
Thank you. He says it again. The messenger comes to David. He's been in charge, that this has been this change. And so the hearts of men are with Absalom. He's saying, this guy is taken over. It's happening. We better flee. Arise and let us flee. Otherwise, we cannot escape. So he will overtake us quickly and bring down calamity on us and strike the city with the edge of the sword. So he doesn't want necessarily violence in the city. But so, what do the servants say? Behold, they said to the king, Behold, your servants are ready to do whatever the Lord your king chooses. So the king went out and all his household with him. But maybe you can help me. I've tried reading on this, and there was all kinds of opinions of what happened here. So he gets the whole works heading down, what I think they cross the brook of Kidron someplace. Anyway, he leaves 10 concubines there. There's all kinds of opinions why they were left there. What's your take? One opinion is somebody need to take care of the house. Other opinions are, what is a concubine?
Like a wife, but essentially
Sexual,
A kept woman.
yeah, what?
A kept woman,
A kept, yeah. They owned her in a sense for,
not the wife, but a kept
yeah, yeah, it's not his wife. So some people are saying, hey, David wasn't doing what was right and it revealed itself or something. I don't know which one it is. What do you think, Ben?
Well, it says that he left them to keep the house. And then, of course, the significance of it is what happened later, which was said was going to, God told him was going to happen.
Yeah, if he hadn't had them, then it may not, the other may not have happened. Whatever. Yeah, it's kind of. They just said to keep the house. There's another word here down in 18. It seems like there's some kind of procedure where your king or your ruler or the person you're following, as you're moving them to another location, if I'm reading this right, said they passed by. What does that mean? Is he counting them, or is he just checking who's on his side? But they use it several places here as we go on. I can remember being camped on the Iditarod, the tent, and I hear this noise of a dog being coming. And this lady was a Baptist lady running it. She yelled at the dogs, pass by, pass by, pass by. That went right by my tent, went on by, but didn't stop or anything. And I don't know what that significance was. It was real interesting to me. The dogs wanted to stop and have something to eat, but we didn't do it. But listen here, it says pass by, and we'll see it in other places. The term they use, it's kind of different. Okay, any comments at all? Lots of people here, 600 men came to them and passed on before the king. Okay. Dana, you want to read 19 through 23?
The king said to Ittai the Gittite, why should you come along with us? Go back and stay with King Absalom. You are a foreigner and exile from your homeland. You came only yesterday, and today shall I make you wander about with us when I do not know where I am going? Go back and take your people with you. May the Lord show you kindness and faithfulness. To 21, is that right?
23.
Okay. Then Ittai replied to the king, as surely as the Lord lives, and as my lord the king lives, wherever my lord the king may be, whether it means life or death, there will your servant be. David said to Ittai, go ahead, march on. So Ittai the Gittite marched on with all his men and the families that were with him. The whole countryside wept aloud as all the people passed by. The king also crossed the Kidron Valley, and the people moved on toward the wilderness.
What do you think that pass by thing is? Just some formality, the way they move people, or I don't know.
Usually on a trail, when you go, you catch up to someone, then you say on your right or on your left or whatever, just kind of let them know that you're gonna go by it.
It can be with horses, could be with dogs, it could be cars.
So just an alert, basically. But this is just recording that they went on.
Yeah, just went. And then, of course, this guy that has joined up with him in verse 19, he said, hey, you just got here a while back. You need to go home and take care of your folks at home and return and go back to your brothers and be with you. And his answer is, surely my lord the king may be, but whatever death or life, I'll be your servant, be there. So that's a pretty strong statement. So he passed over, I guess it says here. And all the little ones, kids, I guess, as they're moving. Okay. there's something else that's been involved in this whole thing. And so the king, David, is taking care of that. So this is the Ark of the Covenant. So whoever's king is, this is real important to David. So that comes in here. So David knows he's had some issues, and several of his Psalms you'll read, and he's pouring his heart out concerning some of the problems that he encountered. Okay, 24 through 26. Tim, you want to read that?
Sure. And lo, Zadok also, and all the Levites were with him, bearing the ark of the covenant of God. And they set down the ark of God, and Abiathar went up until all the people had done passing out of the city. And the king said unto Zadok, carry back the ark of God into the city. If I shall find favor in the eyes of the Lord, he will bring me again, and show me both it and his habitation. But if he say thus, I have no delight in thee, behold, here I am. Let him do to me as seemeth good unto him.
So basically, this is a kind of a priest, I think, and they were carrying it and dealing with it. This guy's name is Zadok. So let's read over here now. David is coming through here, and they're returning this Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem. Then we have a thing on the Mount of Olives, so let's catch up to that. And has reveals some of the motions that happen, and they have some advice from one of the advisors. So let's catch up here. 27 through 31. Oh, I got it. There you go.
The king also said to Zadok the priest, are you not a seer? Go back to the city in peace with your two sons, Ahimaaz your son, and Jonathan the son of Abiathar. See, I will wait at the fjords of the wilderness until word comes from you to inform me. So Zadok and Abiathar carried the ark of God back to Jerusalem, and they remained there. But David went up the ascent of the Mount of Olives, weeping as he went, barefoot and with his head covered. And all the people who were with him covered their heads, and they went up weeping as they went. And it was told to David, Ahithophel, is among the conspirators with Absalom. And David said, O Lord, please turn the counsel of Ahithophel into foolishness.
So we got somebody switching loyalty here, and they come to tell him. I don't think I've ever heard a prayer like this in all my years in church. Where you say, that guy over there, we want you to cancel him out. How do they say it? I pray to make the counsel of Ahithophel foolishness. He doesn't want God to allow that one to go through. He wants it to look foolish. Don't need to know where it's coming, just going to make him look kind of out of it. So he's up on the summit. Let's see if we can finish this up here. As it happened, as David was coming to the summit where God had worshipped, and behold, Hushai the Archite met them with his coat torn and dust. Two or three things. It's barefoot, head covering all messed up. Something else with clothes, wasn't it? Tore them. This is a man that was up there. It happened as David was coming to the summit where God was worshipped, that behold, Hushai met him with his coat torn and dust on his head. And there is this turmoil terminology again of passing over on 33. If you pass over with me, then you will be a burden to me. This is what he's saying. If you return to the city and say to Absalom, I'll be your servant, O king, and I have been your father's servant in time past, I will now be your servant. Then you can thwart the counsel of Ahithophel for me. What's he trying to do?
He's trying to get spies into that.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Just kind of get in there and we'll run it under the table or what? Now, is this odd behavior? Pick up the newspapers. No, it's still going on today with all kinds of little, and spy movies are a big hit. People like all this. It's the same story as here. Talks about doing their son, helping them. So what can we learn from this? I had a thing written down, and I thought that was pretty, it had to do with, here it is, had to do with the comparison of our God, Jesus. It said, David came to Jerusalem. This is somebody's theory and belief. Brave, noble, a conqueror. Probably true. Absalom came to Jerusalem, curing wicked rebel. And then Jesus comes as a servant, a king. Remember the horses and the chariot, the first of this chapter? Jesus comes on a donkey. Total different philosophy. These guys here, and Jesus is welcoming people and not running it with power or force, but by humble. And that's what we're doing today, is practicing those techniques, reading, trying to understand it, because it's totally different than it was done there. Was it wrong back then? No, that's the way God had it. Not that so today, but we can learn from that, hopefully. Any final comments? What if your son brought, or your daughter brought home Absalom? No?
Oh, it wouldn't be this drawn out.
Be real.
That's part of the story here. This is really hard. And I don't want to speak too crassly about it. This is David's son.
Yeah.
So what we see here is a lot of, it's really difficult if you really dive deeply into this, because, as a father, I desperately want, and I think this is going to be reflected later as the story unfolds. You see David's desperation for his son Absalom. He desperately wants Absalom to do the right thing. But Absalom doesn't.
No,
He continues to do the wrong thing, and it should have been dealt with a long time ago. For 4 years, Absalom sat at the gate, conspiring against his father. And long before that, we saw evil in Absalom's heart as he harbored resentment. What he did, it resulted in his sister being raped. It was probably just, but the way he went about doing it was unjust. And so we see Absalom's heart is wicked. And if it had been addressed a long time ago, perhaps when he was young, the fruit of his sin wouldn't end up with him getting caught in a tree and killed. But it doesn't change David's heart. David really desperately wants Absalom to do the right thing, or just struggles with the fact that all of this is happening because David said. Absalom is a result in some way, or his attitude is in some way, and even later his counsel. But in this passage, that Ahithophel's counsel being changed, we see this is all connected to David's indiscretion. But that doesn't change the fact that Ahithophel's decisions are his own, that Absalom's decisions are his own. And the right thing to do would be to address what is evil and do that early on, not hope later something will get taken care of. But yeah, it's a hard deal. But yeah, my daughter brings this guy home now. I gotta wait 4 years for him to be counseling and gets me to the gate.
Psalms is just pours out all kinds of comments on this sin and how it affected things all down there. And do we have the same things happening today? Yeah. We haven't learned, but if dig into this Bible, and of course, forgiveness is a big issue. And when you realize our forgiveness in these areas, it's great. Any other comments? Okay.
So I'm 16 next week.
Really got me. Oh, your voice just like that.